Thank you, Jason. We'd like to welcome our candidates for City Council in an alphabetical order, starting at the left, Chris Bull, C.J. Giotis, Dick Ramsey, incumbent council member and vice mayor, Larry Schaefer, who was invited to be here but unfortunately could not attend this evening, and incumbent council member Ginger Sneed. Good evening and thank you all for being here. Our first question starts all the way down there with Chris Bull. The city's legal representation has become a controversial issue. In light of recent court losses and legal costs, is it time to look at changing the city's legal representation? And if so, how would you structure the city's legal department?
Thank you, John. There is no doubt that we need to go and look at our legal department. I've thought about it, and I believe that there's a fundamental problem in the fact that the very people who are advising us as to whether we should go to court or not are the ones who actually benefit from the ones when we are in court. We've spent a ton of money, an enormous amount of money on litigation in the past few years, and that needs to change. And we have to change and make things work first for the city of Marathon and not for our lawyers.
Thank you. C.J. Giotis.
The city of Marathon needs to stop being sued. You know, we've got a $395,000 general cost for legal services here. That's huge. That doesn't count litigation. That doesn't count any money that we're paying people in lost lawsuits. So, you know, we struggle and fight to find a couple of dollars here and there, maybe to pay a skate park attendant part-time down at the skate park, and the next thing you know, we're writing checks for $2 million. If we could save 10% on our legal fees, we'd be able to fund a lot of the stuff that the people in this city really want done.
Dick Ramsey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And John Herron, our president attorney, has been with us for a long time. We, although have lawsuits, certainly they are to no extent outrageous. Any city that exists is going to have lawsuits. We are hooked up with a major law firm who has which has gotten us out of a lot of legal issues, done a good job, and right at this particular moment, I have no reason to believe that we should change horses in midstream. I think Gray Robinson and John Herron do a good job, and I commend them.
Ginger Sneed.
Good evening. We have had a few residents recently say that we need to address our attorneys. While I believe it's always important to review and reassess and discuss in a public forum, in a public setting, the work of anyone that works for the city, I also believe that there may be ulterior motives and ulterior plans for getting rid of the present attorneys. Some of the the litigation dollars we speak of were never paid to Gray Robinson or to John Herron. They were paid to outside counsel. Having sat in those executive meetings, I know that it was not John Herron that may allow that money or his counsel. What I do believe is that we need to look at the future, look what we need legislatively.
Thank you.
She looks very serious when she does that. I just have to say that.
She's very good with the stop sign.
Command your respect.
Yes. Our next question will be answered first by C.J. Giotis, and again, each of you have 45 seconds to answer. People have expressed concerns over the state of the city staff, no raises for 5+ years, and a perceived skeleton crew that won't be able to handle the redevelopment projects waiting in the wings. Plus, the city has raided its reserves to pay settlements and keep taxes artificially low. Seeing as rising property values alone likely won't be enough to generate necessary revenue, is it time to look at the possibility of a tax increase? CJ?
You know, one of the strengths that I bring to the city council is a background in human resources. For 4 years, I was your deputy city manager. I was your human resources director for the city. I was the ports manager for the city of Marathon. I do have a degree in human resources. I understand what goes on with people that we hire and we try to retain. Right now, you know, what we need to be doing is evaluating everything. We need to look at everything. I'm a product of the 70s and 80s, and you know what? We say question everything, and we'll do that with this. There are plenty of ways to save money without having to raise taxes.
Dick Ramsey.
I, for one, am very proud of the city of Marathon and the way we have, in fact, controlled our taxes and kept our tax rates low. As a matter of fact, we probably have the lowest tax rate in Monroe County. And we did it because we worked hard at it. We raised taxes this year just slightly to make sure we did not cut down on services to our public, and we're not going to do that. We are looking at how to adjust, and we're adjusting by bringing online new hotels, which are going to bring in more income. We're going to adjust by going forward with my initiative of Port of Entry, which is going to be an economic boom to the Middle Keys and to Marathon, and we will keep your taxes low, and I'm proud of that. Thank you.
Ginger Sneed.
While I disagree with my counterparts that we can actually reduce taxes, I agree with Mr. Ramsey. We have worked very hard over the last 4 years to keep your taxes low and to still provide services that it deserves. I'm very proud of that. I believe that with the new TRUs, which I fought very hard in Tallahassee to get into our city so that we can start some hotel development, I think with the beginning of that and the use of property that is not being used to its highest and best use, thus for not giving us the highest taxes that we can get for it, I believe that once we get those online, we will see an increase in our tax revenues without increasing it for our residents.
Chris Bull.
Well, in the last 3 years, we've actually had an increase in bed tax revenue collection and all that at a greater rate that's actually more so than all of the keys. So I think for Marathon, our economy is growing. You know, my concern is that when they see that production is that the developers are going to come right after that. And my fear is that, you know, do we have a plan in place so that when they do come in and redevelop, is that going to occur responsibly? Are we staffed well enough that we can handle everything? And so I think that we have time, but we have to get a plan in place as soon as possible, because I believe that we are going to be able to keep we've done a great job in keeping our rates low, and we'll continue to do so as our economy grows, but we have to be ready for that growth.
Thank you very much. Our next question starts with Councilmember Dick Ramsey, Vice Mayor Dick Ramsey. A few years ago, the county was poised to commit a significant amount of funding and resources to keep Cape Air flying for one more season at the Marathon Airport in order to help them establish themselves here. The county was asking for a relatively small commitment from the city of Marathon, $17,000, and you and the other incumbent council member here this evening voted it down and kept the airline out of Marathon. In hindsight, was that the correct decision?
Absolutely. It was the correct decision. By the way, you know, we all would like an airline. As a matter of fact, Marathon put on the ballot just recently, would you guys like an airline? Everybody said yes. And then we put on the ballot, would you like to subsidize it? And everybody said no. So let me tell you the story in between. The story in between is we're going to get an airline here, and I'm working on it. I am the council's representative to the airport. I know the airport, I know the FAA, and I know the airlines very well. Once this port of entry is established and we get travel to the Caribbean and to Canada, and we then will have charter service, and after charter service, I can almost guarantee you, we will follow with an airline. We're working on it, and to subsidize that airline was a bad idea.
Ginger Sneed.
I absolutely back the decision I made at the time. We had already had an airline that we had subsidized as a city that had failed. We had less hotel rooms in line to house those people if we did house another airline here. I think that it's more important that we finish the projects and we make it so that an airline can succeed for future planning. We need to give them places to stay. We need to support our local government and fund businesses that are already here instead of trying to create a business that wasn't ready to be here.
Chris Bull.
So this question was about a $17,000 investment that would give a return, a economic impact for that year of $700,000 to $150 million, or pardon me, $1.5 million. So I think for that year, I think it was a terrible decision. It wasn't exactly what we wanted, but Rome wasn't built in a day either. It was something we could work with and build from, and we could work with that instead of the nothingness that we have today. Now, moving forward, I do think we need to go with we need to put pressure on and work with the county to continue to develop the port of entry, and then our airline service, and I will be doing that on council.
CJ Giotis.
I would love to have an airline down here at the Marathon Airport. But you know what? We tried subsidizing. It didn't work. You know, I strongly believe in a representative form of government. And as a city council person, I think that I represent the folks in town and the people in town that I speak to. They don't want to subsidize an airline. You know, they do want an airline. They don't want to pay for it, as some of the other council folks have said. I don't think we should. I think we should make it available to get an airline in here that can make a profit, do a good job, fly us in and out, bring us where we want to go, and, you know, we don't have a long drive home.
Thank you, CJ. Our next question will go first to Ginger Sneed. Since Florida Keys days at the state capitol were reborn, the city has not sent a representative. At the most recent such event, it seemed a new deal was brokered behind the scenes that sent the first $50 million of Tallahassee sewer funding to the Keys, but cut Marathon out of that first installment and reduced Marathon's overall share guaranteed under the original Mayfield legislation. The council decided not to fight the action, even though the city moved forward where other local governments stalled and waited to put wastewater systems in. What will you do to ensure that Marathon gets its fair share under the original legislation?
We're already in the works, working with the county to make sure that happens. Well, I was probably the most disappointed of all the councilmen sitting up here that we did not get that money. I don't believe that it was because we weren't in Tallahassee for Florida Days. I believe it was because the money was set aside to start projects that were work ready. We were work done nearly. I will work very hard. We've already started working hard to get the next $20 million in the next, at least $20 million in the next cycle. And I believe that with the contacts I have and the people I've visited in Tallahassee, that we can do that.
Chris Paul.
I was actually on council when we did that original legislation. So I think there was, you know, to see that when the money came down and we didn't get any of it when we finally got money to come down here, I was very disappointed. But that deal has already been made, and that's in the past. But moving forward, you know, my understanding is that we should get at least $20 million. And my experience with the county has been that that they want something in the beginning, and then they'll say they'll do something after that. And then when that actually happens, we capitulate and say, yes, we're going to go and get that money, or, you know, we'll do the first thing. They say, oh, things have changed. We don't quite get what we want. I will use my contacts at the county and state level to make darn sure that Marathon gets their money this year.
CJ Giotis.
You know, the city of Marathon moved forward with the sewer system. Most of the folks in the area weren't moving forward, and you know what the people told me? The taxpayers of this city, they were afraid to move forward because when it came time to get the money paid back, they said, if we move forward, we don't need that money, we won't get it. And that was their biggest fear. And you know, city government is very complicated, but the taxpayer doesn't care how complicated it is. And all that they see is that we were promised something and that promise wasn't held. You know, I know that we've got more money coming in. We'll get our portion of it as it goes. But I'll tell you what, I think the city of Marathon, we need to hang tough. I'm not a very good person to owe money to, and that's what the folks that are supporting me ask me to do for the city, and that's what I promise to do.
Dick Ramsey.
There's no doubt that the city of Marathon was not treated well. There's no doubt that our lobbyists did not do their job. There is no doubt that we could have tried to intervene and possibly then ruin any chances of Monroe County getting that first $50 million, and the city decided to take the high road and not make a big noise about it, but not happy about it, I'm going to tell you. Right now, as you heard from the state representative candidates, there is a deal. The deal is within the governor's budget. The next $50 million is coming. There will be a local, interlocal agreement between the cities and the county to determine the split of that next $50 million, and I can promise you that Marathon will get its fair share and more. Thank you.
And we do have a bonus question for you this evening. And through the luck of the draw and flips of coins and other sorts of astronomical divinations, this question will go first to Ginger Sneed. It was reported in the local media that many commercial sewer hookup permit fees were overcharged and significant refunds were due after a council member brought his bill into the city manager. Was the policy the council originally set misinterpreted? And how can we keep this from happening again?
Was misinterpreted or just misfunctioning. It's a mistake. Humans make mistakes. Unfortunately, we're full of humans. All of us are. I think the most important part is that once the problem was recognized, it was addressed, and it's being moved forward. As of this day, there are 11 commercial businesses that are getting refunds. We have reached out. We've tried to correct the issue once we recognized it. I think the bigger thing is that we made all these prices set on an assumption of what it was going to cost us to put in sewers. Now that we know the true cost of putting in sewers and the true cost of running, I think it's time to go back and reassess and look and see where we can maybe have changed things or maybe can change things for the future.
Chris Ball.
Nobody's perfect and mistakes happen. And I think there's no doubt that the city has been working on a very tight budget the last few years, and the staff has been asked to do more and more with less and less. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running, is that we need to have a discussion on what needs to be done to set things like this right and give our city manager the resources to get it done right and to provide the best possible service for our Marathon residents.
C.J. Giotis.
You know, I started campaigning way early in this thing. It was back in February or March. My wife and I both sat down. We're committed to my being city council. I'm committed to serving this city. And the folks that I'm talking to out in the streets, in the neighborhoods, telephones, email, what they're asking me is that they just want to be treated fairly. They want everybody to be treated honestly. They want to trust us. They want to make sure that the people are handled and taken care of fairly and evenly. And if we make a mistake, if the city of Marathon makes a mistake, then we fix it. That's great, as long as we're fair all the way across the board. And I think we should continue that.
Dick Ramsey.
Your city, the city of Marathon, is probably one of the finest cities anywhere. You know, we are a family-oriented city. We're honest people. We make a mistake, we take it, and we fix it. And we fixed it. And as a matter of fact, we fixed it to the extent that we didn't wait for people to come to us to get their refund. We went to them. And we said, guys, we made a mistake, and we're going to continue to do that. And I am absolutely proud of this city. I am proud of its residents. I love this place, and I'm going to fight every single day to make sure that you and your grandchildren and all of us can survive here. It's just a wonderful place to live. And we're, like I said, honest people. We do the right thing, and we are doing the right thing.
Thank you very much. And we have time for yet another bonus question. And this next bonus question, again through tarot readings and Magic 8 Ball,
You got it fixed.
gets to go to C.J. Giotis first. The City Council used to review a 5-year infrastructure plan every year, and I think it's been 2 or 3 years since that's happened. What are your plans on a 5-year infrastructure plan, and overall, what are your plans for expanding the vision of the future of the city of Marathon?
I've got a master's degree in organizational management. One of the things that we talk about is mission and vision, and it's the first thing that we need, and it's the first thing we need to look at. You know, when we start looking at competition in the private sector or the public sector, we're looking at short-term, long-term goals and objectives. I think we need to look at a 5-year plan and you know, keep reviewing it at the 5 years, but at the same time, we need to look at short-term, long-term, and long-term maybe 20, 30, 50 years down the road. You know, I think that right now we need to maintain the Marathon lifestyle of our locals and enhance the experience of our visitors.
Dick Ramsey.
It's appropriate to bring up the extension of the 1-cent infrastructure tax, which, by the way, is paid between 50 and 60% by our tourists. Because without that extension and without that infrastructure tax, I'm not sure any kind of plan for future infrastructure is going to be practical. You know, we have spent taxpayers' money building a fire station on Grassy Key. I was asked if I would support building a new city hall at this time. I said, absolutely not. As far as I'm concerned, I've talked to some of the county commissioners. They are thinking about moving their operations to the Lower Keys, and this building may be available, the building on 63rd Street. But right now, times are tough, and I'm not going to spend taxpayers' money unless I know it's there. Thank you.
Ginger Sneed.
Now you're pounding my drum. This is what I've been preaching about for the last 4 years, and maybe I misinterpreted the question, but I think that we're looking at making a plan, making a vision. I said 4 years ago when I sat up here for the first time that we had a plan set in place. We went and spent lots of money for a plan that has dust on it sitting on a shelf. We've asked our residents, we started the CIAB board so that we could ask our residents what they thought. I think it's time to make a plan, not just for our landscaping and putting in trees, but for the future of Marathon, for 5 years, for 10 years, for 20 years. We have got development coming, and we want things to work right and work together and work for the benefit of our residents.
Chris Ball.
I've said this all along since I started getting back into the race and getting back into the city politics, is that the council up here has been reactive. We've been doing stormwater and wastewater, and everything has been reacting. We're coming out of that, but yet we don't have a plan for what's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years out. And how can you base decisions now on things that are when you don't know where you want to go in the future? And I was aghast, quite frankly, when budget season came up. I couldn't get the budget online. I couldn't get and I couldn't get a 5-year plan online. And we always dealt with that. And you change it every year and all, but from the beginning, I have said that we need to have a community discussion on everything about our city and see what's good, see what's bad, and find how we can plan for the future.
All right. Well, we still have time. I'm just going to ask everybody, starting with Councilmember Dick Ramsey. I'm going off script here a little bit. Your most important priority for your next term on City Council, starting with Dick Ramsey.
That's part of my closing statement. My most important priority, by the way, is to complete this project that I started 5 years ago to make Marathon a port of entry. A leading economist has written a document saying that once we are, in fact, established as a port of entry, we're going to add $38 million a year to the Middle Keys economy. We're going to create another 350 jobs, and this change will be laying out the future of Marathon and the Middle Keys economically. It's unbelievable. And I'm going to ask at the closing, please vote for Dick Ramsey for City Council and let me finish this project, certainly along with other projects I have in mind, but this one's critical. Thank you.
Ginger Sneed, your top priority.
My top priority is the priority I've been trying to get through to everyone as I've spoken to them, and that's having a plan for our future. Not just a plan of what we're going to look like on US 1, but a plan of what we want, what kind of mix we want. We have developers starting to look at us now. Now they're looking, we need to have a plan in place for where we want it to go, so we don't end up putting all of our eggs in one basket. We need to be diversified, and we need to do what's right for the city of Marathon and what's right for the residents of Marathon. So my biggest goal is to get us a plan in place so that everything else can follow suit.
Chris Ball.
Bar none, my first priority is to do some visioning. And it's not the $125,000 visioning and all that we've done, that the city's done in the past and then sat on the shelf for 8+ years. It's a kind of grassroots visioning that we can do and have collective discussion on what we want to be as a community. And I will be doing that the first 6 months. I'll release the details in the next week on my website, votechrisbull.com, how I plan to do that. But I would like to lead that discussion for our community so that we can set up a plan for a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, and base decisions so we can grow into what we want to be.
And C.J. Giotis.
You know, the folks that support me and the folks that I talk to, the biggest thing they're asking for is that I just stay true to Marathon. They want me to look at Marathon closely, make Marathon the best possible place to live and work in the entire universe. And I'm one of these folks, I believe that all living things grow. And, you know, as a child, if you look at a child psychologist, they'll talk about a failure to thrive, and if kids aren't growing, then they're not doing well. Right now, the city population is going down. We've got empty stores. We've got for rent signs up all over the place. I think we need to concentrate on bringing some jobs in the city. We need to have a place that we can keep the kids that are growing up here so that they stay in this city. My priority will be make sure we keep this city growing and lively.
Thank you very much. And now time for your closing statements, starting with Chris Bull.
Thank you, John. And thanks for having this forum, especially since it's the only one here this campaign season, which is a shame, but I'm glad we're here. Folks, I'm excited. This is the opportunity for Marathon to find its greatness. We can do some planning. We can go and fight for our fair share of money at the county, state, and federal level, and I can do that for you. And I can be an independent voice on council that's going to go and make decisions based on what's good for Marathon and not based on an individual agenda. Thanks a lot. You can go to votechrisbull.com and please vote Chris Bull.
Thank you. C.J. Giotis.
Well, first off, I'd like to thank the chamber and everybody for having me here. It is an absolute honor for me to be sitting in front of everybody, and you know, it looks like November 6th I'll become one of your next city council people, and I'm really looking forward to serving this city. And you know, I've got all the experience and formal education I need to be a good city council person for you. Together we can maintain the Marathon lifestyle of our locals and enhance the experience of our visitors. We concentrate on making Marathon prosperous, and in return we'll all be prosperous. November 6th, vote for me, C.J. Giotis.
Dick Ramsey.
4 years ago, I made a whole bunch of promises to the people of Marathon, and I kept every one of them. 4 years ago, and today on my business card, it says, you talk, and I'll listen. And I've done just that. I've answered every phone call. I've answered every email. I care about Marathon. I'm a 40-year resident, a 28-year business owner. My family was raised here, and I love this place. Please vote Dick Ramsey for Marathon City Council.
And Ginger Sneed.
I've sat up here for the last 4 years. I've appreciated your love and your support. I would like another opportunity to serve you. I've proven to be the council member for the people. I listen to the people. I'm community involved, and I'm community oriented. I look at all issues from an independent standpoint. I do my homework. I believe that the residents of Marathon deserve a leader that has no personal agenda and no hidden agenda. I have proven to be that council member. Please vote for me November 6th or sooner.
Thank you very much to all of our candidates. I'd like to remind you that, go ahead, please, show your appreciation. I'd like to remind you that this is a very complicated ballot. There are a couple of races we did, and unfortunately it is. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Please remember, early voting starts October 27th. The whole polls open on November 6th. Please exercise your right to vote, and remember, if you don't vote, you can't complain.